Now let's take a front row seat and see how families around the South Island work at bringing up their Māori-speaking children at home.
Karakai te ata, ara te waru, wadu.
Kia tēnei?
Tei, parero, parera, hope hope.
Waiata, haka, teaching them their pepeha, things like that. Whoa, taina. Also, in order for us to keep on top of their game, we will have little signs up around the house just with kupuhau and new kiwaha and new whakatauki that we can try and teach them.
I'm one of the teachers at the kohanga, so I've been learning songs there, and then we just sing them in the car on the way there, on the way back. You know, like when you put them to sleep at night, read books, which is really another good way to learn, so you're learning with them.
It takes a lot of repetition. That's how kids learn. Repetition, and you hear that in the kids. They repeat a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I find I tend to say something 3-4 times, which is good for me, because I might get it wrong the first time and I think, oh. And so by the time I've hit the second or the third or the fourth, I'm confident that I've got what I'm saying right.
It needs to be done in a fun way, which encourages them to use the language.
You can't expect to sit down with your children and give them a formal lesson.
Oi. Tēnei mea te homai.
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 E homai. E kia horo me kei kua hinga koe. We play, at home we play kupuhuna a lot because they love that program on TV, kupuhuna. So we just do it ourselves and we give clues and then they have a go at giving clues and they really enjoy, you know, you make it a little bit harder for them and they enjoy trying to figure it out.
There's, you know, something in te reo on the TV. You've got obviously Hannah speaking te reo with the kids. You've got the labels around the house. There's puka puka and te reo all around the place.
Pāpaka! Pōkamakariri! Kōrere!
Matapi. Ba! Kei te hia kai ahau. I'm hungry.
They just pick it up without even knowing.
And they're into it without knowing that they're into it. You know, they're really excited about it and proud of it, but they don't know why or how. It's just, you know, something that they've always
So they just
loved.
absorb it by osmosis.
You can start teaching your children Māori right from that magical moment where you become hapu, because even inside your puku, your children are going to benefit from you starting to teach them te reo.
You know, they're learning to speak, so if you're wanting to learn Māori, it's a really good way to learn because you're having to teach them the basics. So from the early years, you can talk to him about what you're going to do, you know, like ka tini tana kope, ka tini o i tō kope, or, you know, really basic instructions.
Waiata is a big one because he does all the waiata aringa, but he's not speaking yet, so he's not actually singing, but he can understand the song and he knows the actions and all that stuff.
If you give it to them from birth, then they've got something that they don't have to struggle to find, or that it gives them a sense of they know where they come from.
But after all your hard work, kids will still be kids, so there'll always be challenges. Piggy! Whee!
Thank you, Mama. Tō reo, son. Our eldest boy, who's 8 this year, or 9 this year, he, at a very young age, recognised that there weren't other families speaking Māori at home and quickly rejected the language. He didn't want to speak Māori. He'd come home speaking English, and there were, sure it was at least 2 years that I was saying, reo Māori mai, kōrero Māori, reo Māori mai. Getting him to identify why he thought it was important to him, rather than us just feeding all of that kōrero to him. We talked about what would a haka be like if we didn't have te reo Māori. He's like, oh, we wouldn't have haka. What would a waiata be like if we didn't have... So we went through all those sorts of questions, and then he linked it back to being a necessary part of being Māori.
One of the biggest ones is having other children that speak te reo for them to play with. Outside, like, although there's plenty of children that speak at kohanga reo, there's a lot of the families don't actually support it and have reo in the home.
Seek out friends that have other kids that kōrero Māori. Go to groups, you know, whether that's play groups or kohanga reo, because once you get with other families, your kids are naturally going to start playing with those other kids and they pick up languages so fast.
The reason we've also come to the kura reo is not necessarily for us, but of course we need it. We need the boost, but it's actually for ripika. So those things are really important. Bring your whānau to places like this if you can and get them involved and just get them surrounded by people that are actually speaking Māori.
Kids want to know so much more, you know, that question that kids ask, but why? But what is this and what's this for? And so it's not just knowing the word for a mixer when they ask, but why do you use that and not that? You actually got to find the language around it.
Keep learning myself. Yeah, go through phases really and get inspired sometimes and make a real effort to keep learning new vocab.
If I think about 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to just do what I've done with the kids in baking a cake, even though it came out of a packet. Still a lot of things I had to do. I had to actually learn the words for to stir, to mix ingredients. Like, they're not things that I learnt when I was learning te reo.
We've got, I don't know how many dictionaries. Yeah, there's one on the toilet.
One on the kitchen table.
Reading books is a great start for whānau. It can also help for those adults who don't have much confidence.
But when Ripika was first born though, I struggled hugely to speak Māori and I was embarrassed publicly to speak it. I was nervous about what I was saying. I didn't understand baby talk, like what do you say? Because you've learnt all this other sort of language, academic language, then all of a sudden you're speaking and having to communicate with the baby. I was worried about my family, what would they think? But it took me a couple of months and then I just sort of slapped myself around and thought, come on, get over that. It's all right.
I need to find ways that they can use the reo in any way that they want to be able to use it, and it needs to include all of the new situations and things that they have in their lives.
I think it's still the consistency, you being consistent with what you do and how you are, is what will overcome those challenges. Just, you know, stick with it.
Babies do things that inspire you to learn more. You think, oh, what's the word for throwing, when he kicks off his blankets? You know, all those things that actually, it's not all work, it's really exciting because you think, oh, I've actually learned a lot today as well.
Seeing them kōrero, I think, is the motivation.
Tautoko.
Now, we wouldn't expect you to do this all on your own, so we've got some handy tips and hints to help you bring up your children speaking te reo in the home. So grab your notebook and write these down. Like anything, you have to crawl before you can walk, and goal setting is a really good way to keep yourself motivated and always learning. So here's a good tip. Go along to the warewhere, buy yourself one of these little whiteboards and write down all your new words and phrases. Here's one I prepared earlier. Ngāi tau pounamu. Here's your bottle. Then use them as much as you can.
Piki ki runga.
Au we, kai he tō pare huare. Tēnei anei he ki waha mo te kai. Ko puta a pito.
Okay, mai. Okay, mai.
Expose your children to as much reo in their life as you can. If you're travelling in the car, play Māori music or the Tahu or moho CDs, or, you know, just those sort of things. And visual te reo as well.
Start labelling your everyday household items with the Māori words that you learn from your dictionary. Switch on to Māori television, where you and your whānau can watch your favourite cartoon or show in te reo Māori.
E te iwi a Tamariki. That's right, start your day listening to your local Māori radio station.
Find other like-minded whānau and gather together and practice using what they know together, so that they're creating te reo buddies for the children and for each other as well.